Hey guys, welcome to Mr. Valentin's YouTube video for Hamlet review. This is going to cover the Globe Theatre, Act 1, Act 2, and meter. So, let's begin. So the first part of your test is going to deal with the literary terms we've established in the classroom. Here's a list of them in alphabetical order. So you need to make sure you know each one individually. So let's go over to make sure we do know what each one is. So first up, illusion. What is an illusion? An illusion is a reference to a literary or historical person, place, or thing. An aside. So the three different literary terms that are going to cause you some confusion, all right, are aside, monologue, and soliloquy. So we want to make sure we can be able to tell the difference between all of them. So, an aside, right, is when a character reveals private information and other characters are on stage. A comedy, we should know, is something that ends in a marriage. Foreshadowing, right, are subtle hints about future events. Iambic pentameter is the style in which Shakespeare wrote. An illusion with an I is a falsified image. Imagery are appeals to the senses, all right, usually through visual means. We know a metaphor is a comparison that does not use like or as. A monologue is a long, uninterrupted speech. A paradox is juxtaposition between two unlike ideas to draw parallels. Personification, right, is giving lifelike qualities to non-living or inanimate objects. A pun is a play on words, usually a joke in some form or another. A simile is a comparison that does use like or as, or we should just say that uses like or as. Okay. Moving on down, all the way to a soliloquy. A soliloquy is when a character reveals private thoughts and the character is alone on stage. A tragedy, all right, we know ends in death, and then a tragicomedy is kind of this weird combination, often funny, and it can end either in death or marriage, but it will end in one of the two. All right, so those are the main literary terms. It's a lot, so make sure you know them. All right, so again, starting at illusion, and then I'm just scrolling up. All right, and that's how you'll see it. It'll be a matching column. All right, and so if you see something that says, all right, a long and interrupted speech, all right, you'll have to choose monologue, all right, or play on words, you'll have to choose a pun. So this brings us to the Globe Theatre. We went over a long packet about the Globe Theatre and what's involved in it. So these are things that you're just going to want to keep in mind over the course of your test. You have 5 multiple choice questions, so it's not that much, but for the sake of recalling information, we're going to go over some things. So, importantly, all right, that the Globe Theatre refers to one of 3 theaters in London. So, just keep that in mind because it was destroyed by fire, and then it was rebuilt, and then it was closed down due to politics, and then didn't reopen again until the 1990s. So that's going to be of some importance to you. Cool. All right. So the Globe Theatre, when we talk about theaters, we need to know that it is very much what they refer to as a thrust stage. There's 3 types of stages. All right. So there's the thrust stage, there's the proscenium, and there's the arena. When we talk about the Globe Theatre, we're talking about thrust stages. All right, that is the stage, as you see here, thrusts out into the audience, but they could still put props back here, and people sit on 3/4 or stand here in the penny-ling seats. The proscenium is your classic movie theater kind of stage. All right, so for the proscenium, you'll have a stage. All right, it'll look like this, or as I was saying, a movie theater. And so the stage is in the front, and all the seats are all along the side. And then, of course, you have the arena stage, which is just seats sitting all around like you would have at a basketball game or a football game or even a baseball game. All right, so stage, dead center, seats, 360 degrees. All right, and the thrust is just an amalgamation between both the thrust and the proscenium. So that's that. Then we get into life in England, which is very important. So that brings us to kind of Shakespeare. Bam. All right. So, again, if you lived to 15, you were kind of good to go. All right. You were likely to live into your 50s, which Shakespeare did. But probably no more than 60% of those born lived past their mid-teens. We need to remember that there was an outbreak of what's referred to as the Black Plague. And it caused the death of nearly 1/3 of the population of London. And so Shakespeare's family kind of reflected that. He was one of 8 children, so he had 7 siblings. 2 died before they reached the age of 1, 1 died at the age of 8. 1 lived to 27, and then the other 4 died somewhere between the ages of 39 and 52, and William Shakespeare was the person who lived to the age of 52. So he was the oldest in his family. He married at an early age. He married at the age of 18. His wife's name was Anne Hathaway. So it's a fun fact. And he lived in a location that's called Stratford. Right? He didn't live in London. He lived in Stratford. And the technical name was Stratford upon Avon. That is, Stratford is the name of the city. Avon was the river that bordered it. It's good for trading and whatnot. English, we need to know, was a minor language. All right, not a super important language in any shape, way, or form. At this time we're talking about. And so that's kind of Shakespeare's life. And so then we get into the Queen. Don't think of death lingering as strictly an upper class kind of ruling, or lower class kind of ruling. Upper class too. In 1562, the Queen nearly dies of smallpox. All right. she was susceptible to disease as well. Didn't affect just the lower class. She was really popular, and she imposed her personality upon the nation. She had talented counselors around her, strong ties of friendship and blood, but she was really a strong, what they would refer to as a matriarch. Strong-willed and cautious, certain of her right to rule, and she was convinced that stability, making England a stable country, was her most important thing. All right, so just keep that in mind for your test. Those things and various other things will appear about the Globe Theatre, so if you have your Globe Theatre packet, that'll be helpful. So far, this is the main group of characters that we've met. So what we're going to see again is another matching column with some information about these characters. You're going to have to identify which character is which. So what do we know so far? First off, Claudius. Claudius, all right, is the current king. He's Hamlet's uncle, and now sort of also his father. So I like to refer to him as the uncle father. We find out he killed the old king, and that's presumably why the ghost is returning for haunting. Fort and Brass, all right, he's been mentioned a couple times. He's the one who is something about an old war. Now, this war has been called off, but clearly it's mentioned for a reason, so just hold on to that thought. Gertrude is the current queen. She was the queen before as well. All right, she is Hamlet's mother, first and foremost, but now because she married Claudius, she's also the aunt. We question her devotion to her previous husband, Hamlet's original father. The ghost, all right, the specter. Oh, I had it right the first time. So we know this is somebody who's been haunting Elsinore. Elsinore is the name of the castle. And several people have seen him. But there's always that question of, is the ghost real or not? So we'll just have to wonder. For now, I think we'll be able to make more decisive decisions later. Hamlet, all right, our protagonist, the Prince of Denmark. Remember, the official title of the story is The Tragedy of Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark. So just keep it in mind. Horatio, Hamlet's best friend. Laertes goes along with the characters Polonius and Ophelia. Laertes is Polonius' son. Currently, he's in France from when we last left off. He is known for partying. So just keep that in mind. All right. Polonius doesn't really trust him. Marcellus is just one of the guards who can confirm seeing the ghost. Ophelia is Polonius's daughter / Laertes' sister. Ophelia is the love interest of Hamlet. Her father describes her, and so does Laertes. Her father and brother both describe her as a virgin. I would like to describe her as, quote, a virgin, if you get my drift. Brings us to Polonius. All right, he's a councilman. For the current king, all right, and we have described him as very, very very old. Reynaldo is of not great importance yet, so the only thing you really need to know is that he's going to go check up on Laertes in France. And Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, kind of one and the same. They went to school with Hamlet. All right. So there's all your characters, again, matching column. So if it says Hamlet's love interest, you're going to have to pick Ophelia. Now, this is the generalness of the characters. There may be a little bit of other things on the test about them. So, but overall, this is largely what you will be seeing. Okay. The second to last part is the true and false. I'm not going to actually go over this because you have your anticipation guides, so I can't really help you there. Study your anticipation guides. They may be changed in a slightly different way. So if you see the line that says, all right, you're going to have to write out true and false, so make sure you write it fully out. It says that in the directions. But if it says for one of the true or false questions, if I could get this to right, it would even be better. There we go. So the ghost accuses Laertes of killing him. You would know this to be false, because we know the ghost accuses Claudius of killing him. If you see Claudius, wow, that's special. Claudius is both Hamlet's uncle and father. We would know that to be true. All right, so some of the information in the true and false might be just general information, but most of it will come straight off of your anticipation guide. All right, so there's that. Great. Last part of your test. We come to now the very important part of meter. All right. Depending on what class you have, depends on the different types of meters that we're talking about. So you have to pay attention to what your class was taught, because your tests may vary between periods, because some classes I didn't teach trochaic, and other classes I did. Some classes I taught dactylic, and other classes I didn't. All right, so you're going to have to be aware of those things, but we've gone over it. Either way, if we've done just iambic, we've done that in depth. If we've done trochaic, we've done that in depth. You won't see too much anapestic or dactylic on your tests. Not this one yet, for those who were exposed to it. So when we talk about meter, we talk about two different types of symbols. We talk about unstressed and stressed syllables. The markings for those is a U for unstressed and a slash for stressed. We also talk about units of measurement. Everyone has learned what an iamb is, or what we will call iambic. And that unit of measurement looks like this together. A U followed by a slash. Some of you learned the other, which is trochaic, which is the exact opposite. A slash followed by a U. In some classes, we even did anapestic and dactylic. Anapestic looks like this. A U and a U followed by a slash. And dactylic is the opposite, a slash followed by a U and then followed by another U. Again, depending on your class, You may have only learned this, you may have learned these two, or you may have learned all four. All right, you know which classes you are, so that shouldn't pose too much of a problem. When we talk about meter, we're starting with one of these two symbols, especially for this test. All right. So if you're just period 4, for when I'm recording this, it's just the U. All right. If you're the other classes, it could be either or. So, how do we figure this out? How do we tell what is what? And why does it matter? So, let's start with a basic sentence. But hark, what light through yonder window breaks. Great. So in this instance, I'll do this in a slightly different color. We'll say, but hark. Again, you're emphasizing the hark, not the but. All right, we're emphasizing the hark. What light. All right, so we're counting. Each syllable gets an individual mark. Through. And then yonder. Yonder has 2 syllables, so it gets 2 marks. Notice how we're saying it. Yonder. Yonder. The yon part is stressed. If you said yonder, well, just doesn't sound right. Window, how many syllables? 2. Window. All right, again. Window, window, window. All right, not window, window. All right, it's not right. Win is the stressed part. And then, of course, breaks. You then separate them into units of measurement. 1, 2. So this is in iambic sentence. Again. 1, 2. Then we count 1, 2. And so we cut it right in the middle. And 1, 2. And that's it. And then we make sure our numbers count beneath the sentence, not above. Make sure when you're drawing your slashes that they go in this direction, not this direction. If you do that, you're wrong. Don't do that. And then you will have to label what type of meter this is. So you will write on the side of it that this is iambic pentameter. So far, so good? Good. We have 8 different forms of meter that I've taught, and you will have to commit these to memory, right? Because we've been doing this every day since we've begun Hamlet. So if a measurement of a line is 2, it's dimeter. If it's 3, it's trimeter. If it's 4, it's tetrameter or tetrameter. If it's 5, it's pentameter or pentameter. If it's 6, it's hexameter. If it's 7, it's heptameter. And if it's 8, it's octameter. And that's as high as it will go on your test. If, again, depending on the class that you've taught, and you have 3 at the end, if it ends with an unstressed, and you have 3 at the end, that's what we call a feminine ending. If it ends in a stressed, that's what we call a masculine ending. So we're going to do another sentence together, and we'll see how we do. Go forth, my love, and find the star. Now, depending on the class, depending on how you were taught, you have to think about how can I tell what is stressed. Remember, single syllable nouns like star and love are always stressed. Star and love. Actions, single syllable actions, are always stressed, and words like the and there we have it. So this sentence, go forth, my love, and find the star, is iambic tetrameter. We're going to try just 3 more examples. So another example would be there goes the midnight train to Georgia. I'm just making these sentences up as I go along, probably from music somewhere. So, again, all right, single syllable nouns, trains, single syllable action, goes. There goes the midnight train to Georgia. We break it. 1, 2, 3. Whoa. Okay, so for this instance, sorry, I was amazed by my amazingness. We have iambic tetrameter. And again, depending on the class, you've learned this or not, with a feminine ending. If you haven't learned this, then it won't be on your test. It will remain off. All right? But for those who have learned it, I expect you to be able to label it and tell me what the ending is. Not the most poetic sentence in the whole wide world, but whatever. The cat is mad. The cat is mad. 1, 2. So we have iambic dimeter. One last time, as I mentioned, depending on the class, depends on whether you've learned this or not. In this instance, we have a sentence that says, tiger, tiger, burning brightly, finding scrawls along the wall. All right, so you have to be able to hear the vocalization, tiger, tiger, not tiger, tiger, all right, tiger, tiger. Do we have tiger, tiger, burning brightly, finding scrawls along the wall. Now we break it up. Seven. So we have trochaic heptameter with a masculine ending. Woo! And so, there we have it. All right, so you have several matching columns, true and false, globe theater, and then the meter section. If you have questions about any of those sections, please come to Extra Help so I can help you. If not, study, watch the video again, look at your notes, look at your anticipation guides, and you should be good to go. I wish you the best of luck, and I will see you at the end of the weekend.